No one thought a guy like Nick Persons would settle down. But now he's a family man.
There's something that we really need to talk about this morning.
Who's about to get a big surprise.
Coco, get down.
Honey, I'm pregnant.
So they're leaving the city behind.
Where's the mall?
You need to get a little fresh air and open spaces.
I think I'm gonna be sick.
Now?
Right now.
Pregnant lady coming through!
For a new life in the country.
The place was built in 1889.
It's a really amazing place to raise a family.
Can we really afford this house?
She is a fixer-upper.
Guess what? I can do the fixing. We'll take it.
Now they're getting close to nature.
When you with me, it's nothing to be scared of. But that.
And experiencing the joys of family life.
We're adding new titles every day to our awesome collection of blockbuster movies, from Hollywood to Nollywood. Download the app and subscribe. This isn't just a streaming channel. This is a bold new world of entertainment. Arise Play. Beyond streaming.
Arise Plays Movie Box is partnering with IndieView Festival Lagos, the home of the most exceptional short films curated from across Africa and the diaspora. Every month, 3 winning movies of the IndieView Festival competition will feature on the Arise Play streaming platform and benefit from the full movie box package and more. Do you think your short film can compete and win at the IndieView Festival? Then follow @IndieView Lagos on Instagram for more information on how to submit your entry. Jumpstart your movie career today and get on the path to fame with the exclusive IndieView and MovieBox partnership. Arise Play. Beyond streaming.
A very warm welcome to This Week, 60 minutes of analytical review of the big stories, topical issues and all the controversies around the world. I'm Sumner Sambo. And now the headlines. People's Democratic Party worked towards a consensus presidential candidate as southern governors of the party insist on power shift to the south. Also, aspirants from the southeast have agreed to work together. Over 160 lives at stake as terrorists say they will start executing the abducted Kaduna train hostages if the federal government does not act fast. And Ketanji Brown Jackson makes history as first black woman to be appointed as a Supreme Court judge in the United States of America. Stay with us. The People's Democratic Party is currently battling to keep the PDP united following a seeming disagreement over where the party should zone its presidential ticket to. Now, the party has been locked in a series of meetings in the last 1 week in a desperate attempt to find a way out of the imbroglio. Having a consensus candidate is one solution to the gridlock, but arriving at this seems a long and uncertain journey ahead. Now, PDP governors from the south are insisting that the presidential ticket of the party must be zoned to the southern part of the country. They say for equity and justice, quote, "We feel that the best thing to do is zone the presidency to the south, and we stand on that position." Meanwhile, aspirants from the Southeast have agreed to work together to produce an acceptable presidential candidate from the geopolitical zone. After a meeting of the Southeast presidential aspirants in Abuja, former Secretary to the Government of the Federation, Anyim Pius Anyim, says they are united on this project.
State of insecurity in the country, the persistent and ceaseless flow.
Well, sorry for that hiccup there. Joining us to review these issues are Adewale Ajadi, lawyer and political strategist, and Arise News analyst, Professor Abiodun Adeni, who is a lecturer at the Bayes University here in Abuja. Gentlemen, welcome to the show.
Good afternoon.
Yes, good afternoon. Let's start with you, Adewale Ajadi. The issue of consensus candidacy, how promising does it look like for the PDP to actually arrive at one, considering the several factions or groups, if we may call them that way, and divisions in the party? Do we think it will be easy to arrive at a consensus candidacy?
Well, it doesn't look like the PDP is being honest with itself on what its strategy is going to be. Is it going to be an absolute push for power, or is it going to be representation of parts of the country that needs some kind of representation in presidency? You know, the idea of zoning, which it's championed for years, is about its role as being able to accommodate Nigeria's diversity. Well, it's a fob to Nigeria's diversity, because usually it's the game between the three main ethnic groups and who's going to be the representative of whichever zone that they're championing. But quite honestly, right now it seems that the PDP would have to go for power, because that's what it's saying. The reality is that if they don't resolve this matter, they would look like the people who are hypocrites, not principled. As bad as zoning is as a tool, it's still an issue, quote unquote, about principle. Now it looks like it's going to be absolute power. A consensus candidate will be decided on what basis? Will they decide that they will put forward on the basis of the person is likely to win, the person that is most qualified in their views? These are all subjective.
The Electoral Act is even there to guide them on what to do. I mean, because all other aspirants who would want to step down must put it in writing that they've stepped down. And I think it was a very good piece of legislation that the National Assembly did. Prof, let's come to you about this issue of consensus candidacy. How feasible is it? Because someone like Atiku is saying that, look, let's just go to the primaries. Let's go there and have an election. I'm confident of myself.
Well, I think, if you permit me, I want to take a different route, you know. Sometimes I'm concerned about the way we portray consensus. This is the first time that we're talking about it in the main with respect to major contestations since the dawn of our democracy in 1999. You know, but if you see consensus, it is integral to our sociology as a people, as Nigerians and as Africans, you know, because Africans, Nigerians, essentially our culture differs to hierarchy. We respect ancestry, the old, we're respecters of wisdom, you know, and that's why you see some levels of leadership emerge often through consensus, family, traditional, you know, institutions. Oftentimes it is not electoral. It's just about agreement, decision making, understanding,
collaborative thinking,
collaboration, right? Now, if in 2022 we're beginning to talk about it, we're beginning to play it up, I think it's something we should welcome to some extent, provided there's widespread consultation. You know, but something is also wrong with it that we need to also underscore, and which is the fact that it shouldn't be something that will make anyone aspiring to a position. We shouldn't criminalize the person, such that you begin to say, what's the reason for you contesting in the first instance? You know, do not make the person feel bad, consistent with the ethos of democracy. And we also have to understand that a democracy is essentially patterned after the American presidential system. But in doing this patterning, we've not been perfect at it. We've not even been above average in that regard. And we'll see other democracies around the world, and they've been very original, they've been very creative in the way they have evolved their own. Because we're neither here nor there in our democratic experiment, we're still struggling. You know, oftentimes we'll see electioneering process, you know, end up in endless court processes, what Falana once called tribunalization, or distracting people from the actual business of statecraft and governance. If consensus can become ingrained, can be developed such that we can be original, we can be creative about it, bringing it into a democratic process, I think there's nothing wrong with it.
Yeah.
So the fact that our political leaders are beginning to sing the songs of consensus, if they can play it well, such that people will feel less aggrieved, and it will reduce acrimony, endless bickering that characterizes our democratic dispensation. I think it's a welcome development, in my opinion.
Consensus is the new game in town, but yes. I just want to go to these Southeast presidential aspirants that we had earlier wanted to bring to you. They've been meeting in Abuja, and they've agreed to also work towards having a united person that will front for them in what looks like a pseudo-consensus arrangement. And we'll just bring you that statement now by Anyim Pius Anyim, who is the spokesman of the Southeast presidential aspirants.
We have agreed to work together as a team. We will work together to ensure that a Southeasterner emerge as PDP flag bearer for 2023 presidential election. We intend to consult with other zones on this issue, and it is based on fairness and equity. In doing so, it is important to note that we have always supported other zones, and we now expect them to reciprocate.
Anyim Pius Anyim there, who is the former president of the Senate and former secretary to the government of the Federation and a presidential aspirant, speaking on behalf of all the Southeast presidential aspirants. Consensus is the new game in town. But isn't this seeming like an undemocratic adventure by the Nigerian nation? Because if people are supposed to go and purchase forms, create a diversity of opinion, of ideas, and sell it to both party members to elect them, Nigerians to elect them, then don't we think that the idea of consensus is shrinking the space for people to be able to advertise new ideas that will allow either party members to elect them or Nigerians to elect them?
I think it's very dangerous. Very, very dangerous. It is a system that means that the state is going to be captured by the elite. The challenge for Nigeria is for us to be a participatory democracy rather than just a representative democracy. We should be able to do the two. What we are seeing across the land is people feeling excluded. And whenever anybody gets into government, that person is the other. We are otherizing people because people don't feel they own the government. We are going to do that even further now by achieving consensus amongst the elites who are members and champions of a particular political arrangement. Young people are going to be specifically excluded. Women are going to be excluded. The consensus will be the common.
No consensus can favor them.
It would, because they're not the power brokers. They're not the ones sitting at the table deciding what is a consensus. Consensus, by its very essence, means sometimes the lowest common denominator. What we are all agreed upon. That means that anything that is exceptional, anything that might be relevant and more effective in our times is excluded. It is extremely dangerous, especially now that we have large sections of the country bearing arms against the state, feeling excluded enough to bear arms against the state. Whether they are right or wrong is irrespective. We need to be a democracy that strives for inclusion. That means that as messy as it is to go to court, as messy as it is to argue amongst each other, as messy as it is to wrangle with each other, we afford the discipline to agree to disagree. We create the atmosphere where there's honest engagement with each other. We create a situation whereby no citizen of Nigeria feels that by some kind of arrangement of consensus, they feel less Nigerian.
Yeah, being excluded. Prof, we've actually seen the two biggest political parties playing this game. I mean, PDP started it with its chairmanship, and then APC came and borrowed it and used it too. And we're seeing PDP working towards a consensus presidential aspirant, and the APC is likely to follow in this instance. Now, aren't we playing exclusionist policies? Politics, because if you look at those who were excluded from this last APC national chairmanship race, a lot of them didn't feel happy. Even if they had gone to get 1 or 2 votes, maybe some of them would have felt better than just being asked to step aside for a consensus.
I think it's also good if we look at the bigger picture. in my own opinion, I think we've never really been too far from consensual approach to politics, even sometimes when we have a semblance of contestation, when we have a semblance of election. Sometimes you see the power elites agreeing to support candidate A or candidate B. And no matter what happens, no matter what transpires at the polls, you see that person emerging and winning. So somehow it is a unwritten kind of consensus. But the point I was making earlier, if we can legitimize it, streamline it in the way in which it will suit our own culture, our own environment, so that everybody will feel a sense of fairness and integration and inclusion, which are all the basic attributes of democracy. I think it might be a good way going forward. But the danger, which I think Adewale is harping upon, is the fact that it can be once more be taken advantage of by the power elite and exclude critical sections of the society, those who can describe as vulnerable and already disadvantaged sections. Those are the things we can guide against, consistent with our determination to grow our democracy.
Especially those who are no money bags. Yeah. Well, I'm being asked to go on a break right now. We'll go on this short break. When we come back, we'll talk about this very important issue, especially as the major opposition People's Democratic Party considers it ahead of its primaries in May. Stay with us.
I just want flex, don't need stress in my life. Avoid the yawa, I no want queue for the bank. Sharp, sharp, I don't open an account. Digital bank, we get the power, now vote. I pay my bills easily, I'm running things like a boss. Collect a loan with no collateral. Vote is the way. Vote is the answer. From Polaris Bank. Vote is the answer. Vote is the way.
Take control. Download Volt by Polaris Bank. That's VULTE. Visit the Google Play Store or Apple Store now. Volt is available to Polaris and non-Polaris Bank customers. Volt by Polaris Bank.
Knowing who you are starts with knowing where you come from. We are the now and the future. We know that we live in a world that offers us endless possibilities. We'll continue to win to create when, where, and how we want. And if they ask you how we did it, tell them we only know one way to do it. We don't wait for permission. We do it now. My name is Ayo Balogun, Wizkid, and I am made in Africa.
Welcome back to This Week. I'm Sumner Sambo, and we're still having this discussion about the People's Democratic Party, the consensus arrangements in that party, and all that's going on within the main opposition, which is similar to that's going on in the Progressive Congress, which is the ruling party. Well, I have with me here Arise News analyst, Professor Abiodun Adeni, who's a lecturer at the Base University here in Abuja, and Adewale Ajadi, who's a lawyer and a political strategist. Let's come to you, Prof. I mean, you were trying to expand on that statement before we actually went on break. Yeah. The idea that if consensus is not well managed, it could lead to exclusionist sort of politics that keeps away the younger people. Absolutely. And then women and all of that, because they're not money bags, and they don't have a strong voice. And considering the youthful population we have in the country, don't you think that's a time bomb?
No, that's not going to be fair, in the sense that we're at this time where we're having youth boards. They're becoming much more creative, much more participatory in other sectors of the society, the economy, the cultural sphere, the entertainment industry, and all of that. They are taking the lead. So when it comes to politics, it's going to be antithetical to the development of our process if we begin to exclude them using all kinds of machinations and subterfuge. So it's very okay for people, to kick against consensus in the interest of these seemingly vulnerable sections. But the point I'm going to say again is that we should not throw consensus easily away, like throwing away the baby and the bathwater. It's a legitimate process, just like direct, indirect primaries, as long as it is refined, not in the way in which we've been practicing election constitutions
as long as
in
people
the past.
Are not coerced.
And people are not coerced or harassed,
or
criminalizing those who legitimately want to serve. Who have shown promise of.
People say if there is a consensus, why do I need to go and contest? Because at the end of the day, and then a lot of Nigerians may actually say that why don't we just agree that there should be a consensus presidency? Why go to elections? Let's save ourselves the money instead of going. And so this is the danger. But let's look at the PDP, Adewale Ajadi. Looking at Atiku, looking at the likes of Tambuwa, Peter Obi, and so on. Even the Southeast aspirants now who are building a consensus among themselves. Do we think that this would actually work? Isn't going to the field, to the party's primaries, the best way to actually bring out the best person?
I think it might be in these circumstances. There's one thing that we have not talked about, which is that sometimes our consensus does not meet up to the standards that the times require. We look at everything with the mindset that we have, but what we need is an exceptional mindset to see what we have not even thought about possible. And I'm hoping for the PDP that they can come up with a candidate that is able to say, well, we have seen what these other people have done, and we accept certain things they have done, we have rejected something, and we'll build on it, rather than say all the things they have done is a waste of time. I'm hoping for a candidate strong enough to say, we don't have answers here, but this is where we have answers. I'm hoping for a candidate strong enough to capture the imagination of young people, to collect their collective will behind them, irrespective of where they are in the country. I'm hoping for a candidate that inspires the people at the bottom of the pyramid, that is able to say, okay, we know you people have been excluded, but we are going to change things to include you. And it doesn't have to be ethnicity, and it doesn't have to be zone. We're looking for an exceptional candidate. To get to that, you can't just sit down together in some room and do that.
Yeah, because my thinking also is that anyone who emerges through a consensus process will be subservient to certain forces in decision making if he or she eventually gets into government. Because people will always be reminding you, remember I stepped down for you, remember we all agreed that you should go. Now let's talk about the PDP and the conflict of interest that's going on in that party because of the zero zoning or the decision to step down the issue of zoning. What do you make of that critical decision?
It's a very negative thing in the sense that the PDP has spent the last 4 years, even not the last 8 years, accusing really Buhari for being the champion of Hausa Fulani interest, especially even the person who chaired their committee, the governor of Benue State, who's made it a specialty of his to accuse him of ethnic this and that. And now they have a chance to use their own principal zoning to shift power in a different direction. And you're suddenly saying it doesn't matter where you come from. That's a very interesting dimension to the choice. But ultimately, it's a political party's choice, what he decides to do. But I would hope that they give us an explanation of why they have chosen to move in this direction, and they would inspire us to look forward to the solution that they're coming for. You can't just say consensus without saying, we are choosing consensus for the following reasons. This is how we are going to make sure, as Prof said, this is how we are going to make sure it's transparent. These are the concerns that you have. This is how we are going to manage it. And in fact, we think this is the best way forward, not just for our great political party, but for the country.
Okay, Prof, and I come to you. I want to pick your brain on the issue of PDP going for zero zoning, as they call it. And then secondly, what if the Southeast presents their own consensus aspirant and the North presents their own consensus aspirant, and even the Southwest presents their own consensus aspirant, or all the Southern presidential aspirants come with only one, and all the Northern presidential aspirants come with only one? What would that kind of scenario be like in the PDP?
We're still, it will be interesting. We're still at the level of hypothesis, but politics is very fluid. Things can change. But it's interesting to see that every section, every region is coming up with their own, is working at arriving at the consensus candidate. But in the PDP situation I really sympathize with them to some extent, really. Because they've been out of power for 8 years. The party that was in power for 16 years, been out of power for 8 years. So have missed power a lot, and they are thinking of not anything else but just how to win the presidential election. And of course they are thinking that if they zone, it will limit their influence, their potentials, the possibilities, and that's why they are looking away from it. But again, in looking away from it, they have to be sensitive to emotions and sentiments, because politics is not just about arithmetic. It also has to do with feelings of people. But again, we have to reiterate this point that, in my opinion, if we actually have to zone, we need to look at sections of the country that have never tasted power, not only in the last 22 or 23 years of practicing democracy, but from independence, tasting power in the consequential and substantial sense of it. And that section that comes to mind easily is the Southeast, And of course, prominent individuals from that region are beginning to feel that the body language of the power brokers are looking away from considering the Southwest. So if that is the case, then let it be thrown open.
Thinking is that if they give the Southeast the ticket, the person may not have the capacity to be able to bring home the trophy.
No,
but the PDP is a national party, and so the PDP should be able to back that person with
absolutely, just like the system backed Obasanjo in 1999, and Obasanjo also used the system to back Yar'Adua in 2007, right? So the system can be very powerful. If the system is supportive of any region or candidate, you find out that, and that's why we were making the point earlier that we've always had some level of consensus, even before now that people are beginning to play it up. It's been around us. Maybe we just need some kind of refinement.
All right, Adola Jedi, just before we go on this break, very quickly, if all of these regions all bring their own consensus candidates, aspirants, how would the scenario look like?
Well, I don't think a Southeast candidate is going to win, for a simple reason that they had an opportunity, whoever the candidate was, during the hip-hop crisis, to become a national hero and a national player, to champion the cause of the country above the cause of sectional interest. They didn't do that. That's number one. The second thing is that the politics of Nigerian presidents is a politics of building a broader trans-state coalition. You don't have to just win amongst your people, you have to win amongst other people. You have to sell yourself. That's not been done. So it's not about what is my turn, it's about whether you can deliver the goods. And that's the challenge. I think ultimately you are likely to have a candidate from the Southwest. Not because the Southwest is the only next person or the person entitled to it, but that's what would communicate to sections of the North to ally. There seems to be an alliance between parts of the North and parts of the Southwest. And there is a possibility that sections of the South-South will go with that. So you have to be able to follow all the constitutional requirements to win across the different, and that's the Nigerian challenge. And it's the beauty of Nigeria, that you have to win across those places.
Yeah, you need to win 25% of at least 24 states, which is a very huge task ahead. Well, we'll have to go on this short break, and when we come back, we'll be talking about 167 Nigerians who are still being held hostage by terrorists after being abducted from the Abuja-Kaduna bound train. It's about 2 weeks now, and we all hope that the government will do something about it. Stay with us.
In 1894, our first branch opened in Lagos, Nigeria. And we took our place in this new land brimming with possibilities and surprises. Take Kano, for instance, where the city's wealthiest trader made his first deposit. 20 bags of silver arriving on camelback. Aren't you glad that we offer online banking today? Expanding across the West African sub-region and beyond, our early presence made it possible for all hardworking Africans to build great things. So is it any wonder that not one, but two first bankers have gone on to become Nigeria's central banker? We are intricately woven into the fabric of society, supporting polo for over 100 years and pushing the limits of athletic performance. Rooted in tradition, but constantly leaning forward into the future. Are you coming?
You first Bank.
We started our journey over 7 years ago, connecting travelers to their favorite destinations. Since then, we've revolutionized how we want our passengers to feel while flying. That is why we've introduced our brand new Embraer 195-E2 aircraft.
Everyone has a face they need to see.
We are on a mission to add new destinations to our ever-increasing fleet. Our Boeing 777 will take you on an international journey. Mumbai, Guangzhou, London, Johannesburg. And now, Airpeace is adding a new destination, Dubai.
If you're gonna fly, then you should fly with us on Airpeace.
Airpeace flies you from all our domestic routes to Dubai from Lagos at no additional cost.
On Airpeace.
Welcome back to the show. I'm Somna Sambo. Now, about 2 weeks after terrorists attacked an Abuja-Kaduna-bound train and abducted more than 167 passengers, the abductors have threatened to start executing the hostages if the federal government does not accede to their demands. The terrorists, who refuse to list their demands publicly, say the government knows what they want and is fully aware of their demands. They are asking the federal government to act fast. Now, the government is here to react. Families of the abducted persons are now asking the government to do more and rescue the abducted train passengers. Let's listen to them.
This event is designed to inform the general public on the achievements attained by the ministry.
It would have been just a ministerial press briefing to showcase the landmark programs, projects and activities of the Ministry of Transportation until it was interrupted by relatives of abductees of the March 28th Abuja-Kaduna train attack. Weighed down by the absence of their family members who are still in the kidnappers' den, they have come here hoping to get some reassurance from the minister, but they are rebuffed. Neither the minister nor any staff would speak to them.
From the government.
Madam Minister, what do you have to say about the train adoption? Is the government doing any efforts? Madam Minister, why?
This provokes even more tears.
Back! Bring us our life back, please! We're appealing to the government to do something. We're appealing to the government to do something, to bring back our loved ones.
Arise TV also faced some resistance as we were hardly allowed to talk to the families of the victims. A resistance we defy.
It's dramatic. I'm a journalist. You don't tell a journalist how to do their job.
Idayat Yusuf, like others, has not seen her two sisters since the abduction on the 28th of March.
We all feel safe with the train, and we believe government is protecting us through the train. And here we are. Here we are. It's very sad. It's really a national disaster to me. And it's really a national embarrassment to me. Please, the government to come to the head of those that are alive. We are sorry for those that have lost their lives. We sympathize with the family. We sympathize with the family of those that lost their lives. We sympathize with the family of those that are in the hospital. We sympathize with. But those that are alive, at least, bring them back. Bring them back. Bring those that are alive back, please. We're appealing to the government to do something.
She is not alone. This man too has his pregnant relative held hostage by these unknown gunmen.
I have my sister who is 7 months pregnant with her husband. So words cannot explain what they are going through and what we are going through.
They have only a singular chant directed at the government.
Bring back our loved ones. Bring back our loved ones.
With hearts that are very heavy and eyes full of tears, the message of these family members would continue to be the same. Bring back our family members to us. Mary Chinda, Arise News.
Thank you so much, Mary. These are troubling times for Nigeria, and a lot of Nigerians are just wondering what is happening to the nation. I mean, the nation of our dreams seems to be evading us. A lot of Nigerians are unhappy about how their loved ones have been in captivity for about 2 weeks and nothing seems to be said by the authorities. And at this point in time, we would want to be looking at these issues as to what needs to be done, why a situation room hasn't been set up by the authorities to ensure that these families get a feedback as to what the government is doing to rescue these 167 Nigerians who are still under captivity. About 8 of them had died during the attack, and more is still being expected from the federal government and the nation's armed forces to rescue these 167 persons after the release of one of them, a Bank of Agriculture acting MD, who is said to have paid 100 million Nigerian naira to be rescued from these terrorists. Well, I still have with me here Arise News analyst Professor Abiodun Adeni, who's a lecturer at the Base University in Abuja here, and Adewale Ajadi, a lawyer and political strategist. Gentlemen, I mean, I'll start with you. Prof, these are very tough times for us as a nation. I mean, what do you say about these families who haven't heard anything, no one is saying anything to them, they're just left alone?
Well, we're with them. We'll continue to sympathize and pray with them. You know, our hearts are heavy, just like their own hearts. And just like Chinda said, and of course, the hearts of the average citizen should also be heavy, you know, with respect to this, because it could have been anybody, you know, it could just have been anybody. The fact that it is not, we're not in that situation today probably just mean that, you know, it's not our turn yet with the way it is going. But we just hope that at some point we can begin to talk about these things in past tense, you know. And I don't want to believe that government cannot really do anything, you know. I don't believe that we are helpless yet, you know, because it still beggars believe how a set of miscreants gone welding nihilists, you know, can continue to ride roughshod on the almighty Nigeria's military. It's still very, very surprising. It just tells me that, you know, 1 or 2 pieces in the jigsaw is not being properly fixed. And what it raises up the question of the leadership question once again. You know, what are the leaders doing? You know, we're not talking about the political leaders now, maybe the president, not necessarily. What are the military leaders? What are they doing? Something is missing somewhere. And that's why these people are still able to take advantage of us. And questions have been raised severally around intelligence. How much intelligence are we gathering, and are we taking action based on the intelligence we have? You know, we understand that these people are very creative, they are very dynamic. You know, that's the nature of crime in itself. Are we also being dynamic in our response to them? And because of the power of the state, wielded by government, you know, we expect that they should be above these characters, because they are growing to become very potent non-state actors, constantly challenging the authority of the state, which is endangering the Nigerian nation and not just the people, and creating fear in us, eventually affecting our ability to carry on our regular lives. And of course, overall, it will affect the socio-economic and political development of our country, and particularly the democratic dispensation that we've been talking about. So many things have been said in the past, short and long-term solutions. In the short term, you know, attack them, you know, through the kinetic means. In the long term, address the issues, the supply chain, you know, the process through which these nihilists are bred, deal with it. The question of poverty, illiteracy, you know, have overpopulation, question of people bearing children they cannot take care of, people who become hopeless, helpless, you know, they feel badgered, and they just think that they should turn around to strike at the society that failed to take care of them, forgetting that it is not necessarily the responsibility of the society from the first instance, but the responsibility of the parents who were irresponsible to have brought them to the world without care or concern for them. Government needs to be concerned about population policy in the long term, so that this explosion faced with limited resources, you know, we can find a way of balancing it out somehow.
Thank you so much, Prof. I mean, that was very strong, very strong. Let's talk about this issue, Adewale Ajadi. Now, this terrorists are actually saying that the government knows what they want. They didn't make it known to we, the public, but while freeing that acting MD of the Bank of Agriculture, they said specifically that the federal government knows what they want, and they had better do so quickly, or else they will execute the remaining 167 persons in captivity. What do we need to do more? Because, I mean, this is dwindling the believability of Nigerians on the Nigerian state.
Well, firstly, I disagree that it should dwindle the problem. Pathologies exist in every state, and this particular pathology is exceptional. is unforeseen, is foreseen one, but is exceptional in its action. The attack of the train, we don't have attacks on trains regularly. But let me give you a little bit background, then I'll go into this. When I used to teach in Jaji for a short period in 2012, Armed Forces Command, yeah. The road between Abuja and Kaduna was patrolled by military officers every 30 minutes or something thereabout. This was in 2012. As far back as then, there was a real serious risk on that road. Believe me. So there used to be a patrol going, and then another patrol would come back. That was long before this happened. So this is not a new thing. And in the past nearly 10 to 12 years, those parts of Kaduna have always been open to attacks, and we have seen it. It had increased in its popularity and its efficacy, especially that pushed people into trains. I'm extremely sad for those who have been hurt by these circumstances, whether they've been killed, God bless their souls, or those who are prisoners at the moment. Let's be very clear. I travel that train regularly, and it could have been me, as Prof said.
That's what everyone is saying.
It could have
Even
been
the president's wife traveled recently using that because it was the safest mode of transportation.
So, however, there is a challenge, a conundrum that we have, and we must not overcome it by not looking at it very deeply. And the conundrum is this: if the federal government negotiates directly with these people in the manner that they are asking for, it does not preclude them doing it more effectively next time, because then they would have been rewarded. I used to work on security in the Niger Delta, and I know, whether people believe it or not, how that has influenced every criminal element in this country. The choice of amnesty during that time. I'm not saying whether it's good or bad. I'm just telling you that if government by fiat says someone that has committed an act against the state can be forgiven, then that holds hope for anybody to do that. Now, preceding this particular act, there has been bombing against these kidnappers in Zamfara and even in Kaduna area. Some of it has been successful, and this might have been one of the provoking factors to this extreme action. What government has to do is, one, use whatever intelligence capacity it has to map out this area. Number two, it has to work very clearly to prepare the families that are concerned and prepare the rest of the public for the dangers of any action it's going to take to rescue these people. But what I would say should not do, even if my family was caught in these circumstances, I pray that someone, I wouldn't have the mind to say what I'm going to say, but I pray someone else has the mind on behalf of the rest of Nigerians to say this, that we must not compromise the rest of Nigeria because of my own personal loss. The danger of negotiating with these people, it means that we are more at risk rather than we are less at risk. So what the government has to do is use its security forces more effectively and more efficiently. How it does that, I'm not privy to how it's going to do.
We saw the Chief of Defense Staff, Prof, very quickly going into organizing dialogue sessions in Southern Kaduna with aggrieved parties here and there. How much can that go in resolving this very quickly?
Means. I think that those things should be left for the political office holders, you know, but the military chiefs should be concerned about putting more boots on the ground so that we can root out these fellows. You know, the intelligence is there. I'm aware of the. I mean, we've been told severally of how sophisticated machinery, our weapons are. You know, and the amount of money we've invested in the last couple of years. You know, what has happened to all these equipment? You know, all these gadgets. You know, why are we not deploying them? That's why I keep saying that something is probably missing, and of course we need more explanation. And in the absence of explanation, let us see action. You know, I mean, of course, a person as high as the governor of Kaduna State came out and sounded very frustrated that, of course, they know where these people are, and the information has been given to the rightful authority for these people to be bombed. You know, but there has been some kind of reluctance. You know. Well, maybe we shouldn't be judgmental. They might have their own consideration, but what is it? You know, perhaps they should let us know if they're not going to take action. But what we rather want is for them to take action so that we can have
when
peace.
we come back, we'll be talking about the El-Rufai solution that he has proffered, saying that if the government doesn't do much, he's going to embark on getting mercenaries, if that is acceptable to the Nigerian state, for state governor to do that. Well, we'll go on this short break, and when we come back, also we'll be discussing about the U.S. newest black Supreme Court judge in that country, Ketanji Brown Jackson. Stay with us.
you adjust to the new realities for operating your business and engaging with your customers, let us help you transform your business into a digital powerhouse capable of adapting and taking advantage of today's opportunities. With our best-in-class array of digital solutions, you can conduct your business, receive payments from your customers, and perform transactions quickly, safely, and conveniently, because we've got you covered with the right people, technology, and service offerings. Contact us today and let us take your business to its zenith. Zenith Bank, in your best interest.
There's no other animal as courageous and majestic as the lion. But with only 50 lions left in Nigeria, they may soon just be a memory. When snares are used for bushmeat, we rob the lions of their food and risk maiming them for life. So please say no to illegal bushmeat and help protect the lions. Keep them wild and keep us safe.
Welcome back to the show. You're still watching This Week, a review of the top big stories during the week across the nation. And I'm Somna Sambo, and I still have with me here Professor Abiodun Adeni, who's a Rise News analyst and a lecturer at the Base University here in Abuja, and Adewale Ajadi, who is a lawyer and political strategist. And let me just give you 1 more minute each to talk about that homemade solution that Governor El-Rufai was trying to proffer, the use of mercenaries. I mean, we have seen the government doing some form of good job in rooting the terrorists in the northeast, but this banditry is a form of mixing terrorism and homemade issues together. How do we think that mercenaries can operate in such a circumstance where bandits move into communities and they mix together and all of that?
Mercenaries may not necessarily be foreign, and two, they may not also be involved in combat operation. It could just be at the level of tactics. And sometimes, like I said, they may not necessarily be foreign. Then most importantly, even if they are foreign, do we not get foreign investors? Do we not have expatriates here? We have people assisting us in other sectors of the economy. And once they are assisting us most of the time, they are not the ones directly involved. We have Julius Berger in this country. We have so many foreign companies. But in terms of implementation, laying of bricks and all of that, we'll see our people doing it. But in terms of the expertise, the know-how, you see them at the top echelon. So mercenary may operate at that level, because it seems there's a deficiency in the way we are dealing with these insurgents or these terrorists, and that's why they're taking advantage of it. Then I think there's another second point to it, which is it can also be local. We have so many security people around, so many people, young boys who are ready to fight. The other day, quite a number of them came out and said they were ready to go to Ukraine to fight if they were encouraged. Yeah. Why don't we go and talk to all these boys to come, to give them some training here and there and throw them against the terrorists?
Training.
Yeah, they can help us. So they might as well be classed as mercenaries. So I agree with the governor. The governor is in the heat of this problem, and of course he's been under pressure. So if he's thinking out of the box, why not? We are in that time.
I was actually wondering where he's going to get the resources to fund such an employment of huge mercenaries to actually embark on such an exercise when they can't pay salaries and all of that.
It would even surprise you that I disagree. All we have to do is look at Mali or the Central African Republic, where mercenaries have been utilized, and the consequence of that. There are always unforeseen consequences of these choices. And it's a legitimate concern that people are being hurt under his watch, and he wants to do something about it. But he has to consider it. It's not the entry that's the problem, it's the outcome that's the problem. Let's say we use local people and we train them and they have capacity. What happens when you finish that conflict? They become another force that you are dealing with.
With the weapons.
With weapons and everything at hand. Even if it's international mercenaries, it takes them a long time to understand the lay of the land. In an asymmetric war, they can kill local people in the process. And then you have an international crisis on your hand of human rights abuse. I'm not saying that, however, we should not think outside the box. I think first thing is to understand the fundamental nature of what we're dealing with. And like I said, this thing has been going on for over need 2 decades. This thing in that Kaduna area, I don't know about Zamfara, but this has been going on for a long time. We need to know the history. We need to map up the people involved, and then we need to deal with it at the root cause.
Very interesting. And we'll now go on to the United States, where Ketanji Brown Jackson made history on Thursday as the first black woman ever to serve on the Supreme Court of the United States of America after being confirmed by the U.S. Supreme Court. Jackson, a 51-year-old appeals court judge with 9 years' experience on the federal bench, was confirmed 53-47, mostly along party lines, but with 3 Republican votes. Now, presiding was Vice President Kamala Harris, who is also the first black woman to reach that high office in the U.S. Now, Jackson will take her seat where Justice Stephen Breyer retires this summer, solidifying the liberal wing of the 6-3 conservative-dominated court. With this new development, there will now be more racial and gender diversity on the nation's high court in the United States. Gentlemen, I mean, a very soothing news in the midst of all the bad news that happens to black people in the United States here. I mean, Prof, what do you make of the Supreme Court confirmation and the narrow victory that they had there? I mean, if not for this, Harris seated there, and then these 3 Republicans giving their backing. I mean, it could have been a tough call.
Yeah, but overall, it's another good day for blacks and for the question of race relation in the United States, considering the status of that country as a bastion of democracy and as an exemplification of a nation, you know, which is a completion of immigrants, you know. Ketanji Brown's story is coming after the stories of Colin Powell, the stories of Barack Obama, the story of Kamala Harris, and now Ketanji Brown. So it's very interesting, but I just hope that at a point we'll be able to get to a point in the US or even in the world where we'll not be looking at blacks in terms of statistics. Be saying the first black woman to emerge, where it will just become like the story of the native or the whites, you know, where a white woman ascending to that kind of position will just be another qualified professional getting to that pedestal, not necessarily defining her through the prism of her phenotype, black that is.
Oh, okay, and I come to you because I want to bring her speech here, but let's hear your view first.
Well, she is a crowning achievement for Biden, and it's realpolitik. Forget about how people position it. It was put into power by black women. It was their vote that made a difference, not just in the primaries, but in the elections. So it makes sense in that sense. It is also important to know that no matter what anybody says, this is a brilliant jurist. This is not someone that's just been put on the like even the Chief Justice was put on the bench as a result of his politics or his phenotype, as Prof said.
Not based on quota system.
Not based on, because the Chief Judge, his quota system is not the same level as this woman. This woman is more brilliant than he is on every level. She's been an appeal court, she's been a public defender, she's been a trial lawyer, a great litigator. She was editor of the Harvard Law Review. Yeah. So we're not talking about like for like. This is an exceptional jurist.
Just like Barack Obama. I mean,
yes.
All the
more than
professional things, I mean, have been ticked.
Checked all the boxes.
Yeah, just keep checking all the boxes.
So anybody who reduces her in the issue of blackness is mistaken. The worry I have, however, is this notion that we have when we start using so-called race as a defining issue, that we assume that somebody will think a particular way. She's an exceptional jurist who will follow the case, and she might decide cases in a way that majority of so-called black people don't like.
Yeah, and that's where the challenge will start from.
There will be those challenges.
Because they'll start saying that she's not representing their interests any longer.
But she's not going to represent the interests.
All right, let's just listen to her and have a feel of what this judge is all about.
It has taken 232 years and 115 prior appointments for a black woman to be selected to serve on the Supreme Court of the United States. But we've made it. We've made it, all of us. The path was cleared for me so that I might rise to this occasion. And in the poetic words of Dr. Maya Angelou, I do so now while bringing the gifts my ancestors gave. I am the dream and the hope of the slave.
All right, that's Ketanji Brown Jackson there. I mean, all very happy and emotional period for all of them. And Prof, let's take a look at what kind of reforms you think that should be bringing to the Supreme Court quickly.
Well, I think that's going to be in the remit of
yeah. I mean, I'll be asking him, but just very briefly.
But I think she's coming after. The last one we had was Amy Connie Barrett. You know, that one was white. Now we're having another woman. So I mean, more balancing overall. Then it's very important again that a vulnerable section of the United States, not just the black now, but also the women, are being represented in that critical institution. Yeah. So it's a good development overall.
All right, and let's talk about the sort of diversity she brings, and then the sort of reforms you hope to have in the Supreme Court that includes her.
She's exceptional in the sense that she's a real trial lawyer. A trial lawyer who understands the spectrum, not just from prosecution of case. She was, until very recently, the vice chair of the Sentencing Commission. That tells you that she understands what strict liability sentencing, strict constricture of sentencing. She also mentioned something in the Senate. She was talking about how she interprets the Constitution, and she follows strictly the constructions of the people who wrote the Constitution, which is traditionally the home of the conservative side. But she understands as a lawyer on how to use that effectively to empower people's rights. Now, what is going to be very interesting is this whole issue. She talked about ancestors. Who are our ancestors? You know, we must not skim over that, because our ancestors are those Africans that were taken away, who lived in subhuman bondage, who are severely humiliated, tortured. So that is not going to be missing in the understanding of how that large swathe of US population is still living under colonial control within the country that they swear fealty to. So it's going to be very interesting when we start looking at things like that. Also the issue of abortion. How the whole issue about, so it might be a minority judgment that she will write, but they'll be very influential ones.
Yeah, we must thank you so much, Adewale Ajadi. Very insightful analysis we've got. I mean, and we can only wish her well and hope that a lot of blacks will give her support too. Because I mean, like you have just said, when some of those judgments start coming, it looks like she's not on their side, then it becomes like she's betraying the black race. Well, we must thank you so much, Adewale Ajadi, who is a political strategist and a lawyer, and Professor Abiodun Adeni, who's a Rise News analyst and a lecturer at the Base University here in Abuja. We must thank you for being on the show. And that's how it's been on the show today. On behalf of our crew from Lagos, London, and here in Abuja, thank you for watching and enjoy the rest of your day. I'm Somna Sambo.
Making music for you is so easy for me to do. But you know what else is super easy to do? Linking your NIN to your Glow line by dialing *109*NIN#. Or I can call 109 from my Glow line and follow the instructions. And if I don't want to call, I can text my NIN to 109. I can even visit glowworld.com/NIN. And what if you've forgotten your NIN? All you have to do is dial *346# and Glow will help you remember it. Someone may ask, what if I haven't registered? All you have to do is go into the nearest Glow World and we'll help you register. It's that easy. So don't get disconnected from all of the amazing voice and data offers from Glow. Linking your NIN to your Glow lines is simple, safe, and 100% free with zero hassles.
Arise Plays Movie Box is partnering with IndieView Festival Lagos, the home of the most exceptional short films curated from across Africa and the diaspora. Every month, 3 winning movies of the IndieView Festival competition will feature on the Arise Play streaming platform and benefit from the full movie box package and more. Do you think your short film can compete and win at the IndieView Festival? Then follow @IndieViewLagos on Instagram for more information on how to submit your entry. Jumpstart your movie career today and get on the path to fame with the exclusive IndieView and MovieBox partnership. Arise Play. Beyond streaming.